Hello and welcome to CISO Chair, the global stage where security, privacy, and technology leaders share their stories, insights, and strategies that shape the future of digital trust. From boardroom decisions to real world ethics, we explore the safe space where innovation meets responsibility, one conversation at a time. Joining us today is a powerhouse of intersection of governance, innovation, and global compliance. Ksenia Laputko is the global head of privacy and AI governance, a sought after GDPR and international privacy consultant, and a mentor preparing professionals worldwide for certifications in privacy and AI law. With hands on experience across EU, North America, and Asia, Senia brings unparalleled insights into building scalable compliance programs, navigating complex regulations, and designing responsible AI strategies. She's not just shaping the policy, she's shaping the next generation of privacy and AI leaders. Senia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashish. I'm pleased to be there.
I would want to start with how did this happen? How did you end up in privacy? And maybe if you could just quickly walk us through your career journey.
Well, it's pretty interesting because I started as a lawyer, as a consultant in different legal questions, and then I was a lecturer at university. I'm still teaching at the universities, and then, I started consulting at on human rights and technical issues, but I quickly saw how privacy, sits at the intersection of law, ethics, and innovation at the same time. And the key moment for me was, I think, helping a client who was unknowingly violating data privacy laws while they were expanding globally. They were doing amazing product, but at the same time they were breaching the laws. And it showed me how, fast things can go wrong and how few people were truly prepared. So this is how I ended up there. And right now I am, what you said, I'm consulting people on privacy matters and legal aspects, AI, and also preparing my colleagues for privacy certifications, mostly the ones by EAP.
In your journey so far, is there any defining moment or a challenge that you could share with our audience which you would have seen along the way?
You know, it's not like working in privacy is linear. You have a lot of challenges. You get challenges every day. Think that the biggest challenge right now for everybody who's working in this field is AI. And we are not just protecting data anymore. We are kind of shaping decisions right now which impact real lives. So it's not like, I can talk about one defining moment. It's the challenges that we face every day, is the practical issues that we need to solve. So kind of like this.
And just to touch upon the global scope of privacy and AI, how do you reconcile the differences between major privacy frameworks like GDPR, CPRA, PIPEDA, or the Asia Pacific regimes while setting global policies?
Say that, well, the secret is to stop looking at them at the contradictions. We start seeing them as spectrum of risk tolerance and accountability. I usually try to anchor our global policies to the strictest standards where it is possible, because in some regions, like in the United States, you have to be very, very reasonable and kind of specific. And then I try to build add-ons for region-specific needs. For example, for California residents, we have some extra policies and like do not sell or share. PIPEDA is slightly closer to European approach. That's why probably Canada is adequate jurisdiction. On Asia Pacific, I would say that it's evolving pretty rapidly, especially in places like China or Singapore. And basically, the biggest advice and the biggest thing I think that me and my colleagues have to do is constant monitoring in every region you work with or your company plans to work. It takes a lot of time to monitor the changes, to read the new laws, to read the new analytics, This is how you try to find not only the existing laws, not only the existing rules, but you also, by doing that, you understand the tendencies. And this is how you can kind of build up global compliance. It's a bit like, it's a bit like legal architecture. One foundation with flexible rooms for each jurisdiction. And well, a lot of conversations with people, with stakeholders to explain that global policy and global presence doesn't mean one size fits all. It means consistent values, but applied locally with respect and with care.
So your career journey has been pretty interesting, and I'm sure it would have also been very eventful for you. And you served as a consultant, leader, and an instructor. Which role has taught you the most about the realities of privacy and AI law in practice?
That's an interesting question. Well, honestly, each role sharpened a bit different muscle. But if I had to pick one that truly exposed me to the real world messiness of privacy and I think it's been the consultant. So because as a consultant, you're not in a controlled academic setting, or you are not just reviewing theoretical frameworks, you are in the trenches, seeing how organizations actually handle or mishandle, but it happens sometimes, personal data and AI deployment under pressure with limited resources and sometimes under kind of, I would say, unrealistic timelines. Because I've once had a CEO who told me, "We've just signed this partnership. Can you make sure that it's GDPR compliant after the data transfer has started?" Or I have sometimes issues with the technical teams when they are pushing out the AI features with no risk assessments, assuming that privacy is just about, cookie banner or privacy notice. And so this is how you pretty quickly realize that law on paper and law on practice are two different, beasts. And the thing is that sometimes I also see when we're hiring people or hiring other consultants, I see that even a lot of people who get certified, for example, who have this pretty nice badge, CPPE, they have just learned the book or learned from somebody who have never ever worked in privacy. So they have the theory, but they completely don't understand how this works in practice. So I think the intersection of being a consultant and the intersection of being a mentor, teaching people how to work with privacy, how to dive into privacy, this I think still teaches me a lot.
Thank you for that very pragmatic and real life problem that you shared. And I'm sure it is common, I mean, in a lot of other organizations as well. But speaking of organizations, many organizations still view privacy simply as a checkbox. How do you communicate its strategic value on global scale, especially with the added complexity of AI ethics?
That's kind of the challenge I deal very often with, that privacy and AI ethics is seen still, but a lot of people, a lot of, executives who have built businesses, in past 10, 20 years. Um, and right now, yes, and they are new projects, growth oriented. They just want to check the boxes and go further as fast as possible. So my approach is to balance as a lawyer legal why with the human so what. So on the one hand, I emphasize that privacy and AI compliance is not optional thing because there are frameworks like GDPR, CPR, PDPA, and so on, and they often carry serious enforcement powers. So the fines are pretty real, but I never stop there. It still this approach really works on senior managers. They understand the language of fines, they understand the language of reputational losses, they understand the language of financial losses. But I also like to explain why these laws exist in the first place, because at its core, privacy is about us respecting each other. So, respecting people's rights, who we are, what is done with our data, how we are treated by technology. And the same goes actually for AI governance. It's not only about algorithms right now, it's about outcomes, it's about fairness, it's about accountability. So when I speak to teams across legal, technical, or operations, I make sure that they see the full picture, because compliance isn't just to avoid the risk. It's not. It's about building something lawful, trustworthy, and sustainable. And well, honestly, I've seen that when people understand both the legal requirements and the ethical logics between them, they get very much more engaged. So that's when privacy becomes a culture and not just a document, because this is the only way how we move from this idea of chat boxes to strategy and conversation at time.
The most interesting word that I picked up, and thank you for all your inputs on that, was the culture part, which is so important. But so I'm also curious to know that with so many new AI regulations and privacy updates worldwide, do you think global compliance is becoming unrealistically complex, even for the larger organizations?
There are a few things on that. First of all, yes, it's definitely getting more complex, but I wouldn't say it's unrealistic. There is different kind of challenge. But first of all, there is one myth that again, people who have been in business for 20 or 30 years sometimes have, and I recently heard that from one of top managers, that there is magical state of zero risk somehow. Um, it's not how the regulatory system works. We don't build compliance programs to guarantee zero risk. There is no such thing as zero risk. Even the best companies who invest a lot in privacy, they get fined because, well, things happen. It's more about, well, create and a governance structures to be able to detect response and to learn and to be able the best that we can. So I often say it isn't the goal isn't to promise that there wouldn't be a fire. It's to prove that you have built a sprinkler system, trained the team, and made sure that all exits are marked. And right now, especially important and for big companies, because we're not dealing right now with one set of laws anymore. Are navigating a patchwork of evolving frameworks. Europe has one approach. United States have already, several approaches because they have something like sectoral privacy on federal level, and then they have a layer of state privacy laws which are very different. They also right now have the idea of AI regulation, even though the new administration of the United States is, well, kind of taking all of the borders, away. And at the same moment, we have not only the laws, we have the voluntary codes like NIST AIRMF, we have ISO standards, and so on. And then we have the European Union AI Act, which is right now on the raise. As you see, everybody's talking about that because next year we're going to see the amount of fines. So even large organizations with strong legal teams are feeling this pressure right now. But I think that the key is to shift our mindset. Instead of just chasing compliance jurisdiction based jurisdiction, we need to build principle based governance, which aligns with our core expectations and with core expectations of regions of the people, like transparency, accountability, risk based. This is the only way that I think we will be future proof. So we will never have, this perfect one size fits all privacy policy, but we should try to respect the people. So the core thing is respect to people. Once you have this, by default and by design, you are the one who is able to think strategically and to create these systems and the businesses that take all that into account.
Thanks for that. And I really like the way, the optic with which you look at it. And it's a great way to kind of not look at it as regulatory fatigue, but more as an opportunity, and also addressing the fundamental rights of a lot of legislatures across the globe. Now, you are well known for preparing privacy and AI professionals for key certifications. How do you see the most common knowledge gaps or challenges people face today?
In this issue, I'm a bit of a nerd, because my original background is in academics, and I'm still a professor at the university. So I don't like when people think that, passing a certification like CAPPE, CAPPUS, whatever, AIGP, automatically makes you a privacy professional. It doesn't. So, and even what's more worrying me in this field is when people learn from others who have never actually worked with this law, who have never ever handled real world privacy issues. They have just passed the test and then they are starting to prepare their own courses and teaching people. I think that people shouldn't understand that just because someone passed the exam, it doesn't mean that they are equipped to guide others through the complexities in practice. Passing the test only proves that you can pass the test, like in school, it's the exam, right? And it doesn't mean that you can draft a um, data protection impact assessment, or you can do any AI assessments, or you understand how to create the register of processing activities, that it's not just the Excel table, it should work other way, how you should handle cross-border transfer, what challenges you face when you're actually building a privacy program inside a company. So to truly grow in this field, you have to go beyond the theory. You need to read the laws, not only to read, the EAP book. You have to study the guidelines. You have to get your hands dirty with real tasks like building a ROPA, reviewing vendor contracts, performing an impact assessment. So this is where the real competence begins, not when you have asked ChatGPT to give you the questions, when you have learned how to answer these questions, and then you just gain these 4 letters of certification. That doesn't mean a thing.
And just to revert, it's also about understanding privacy contextually. And that
Yes,
context is something that you get only from experience, from working
absolutely.
more closely on the ground. And of course, like you rightly mentioned, about also learning from peers and thought leaders like yourself.
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm all the time learning this kind of my discipline. I believe that once you stop learning, you stop degrading in the modern world. I'm right now listening to course by Irish Society of Law. It's absolutely brilliant. I love what my colleagues done. And there was one lecture which was talking basically about one of the questions that is pretty massively widespread in media, that most of professions would be replaced by AI. And my colleague was talking about the legal professionals. And I completely agree with him that we wouldn't be replaced because, people are not buying your knowledge when they're paying for you for being a good lawyer. They're not buying you for you to be an Google or ChatGPT. They're buying your critical thinking. They are buying your experience. And this is also how compliance works. You have to be a critical thinker, not just, dropped in something via ChatGPT. Because recently, actually, I had a case. I was really pissed off. Sometimes at work, I get even a bit aggressive when I see how badly people take their responsibilities, how poorly they work. I was doing vendor due diligence for my company, and when I opened even the website of this potential vendor, I have seen a lot of red flags, like a lot of red flags. They did not have any cookie banner, even though they were collecting 88 cookies on that website. They did not have a cookie policy, but this wasn't the most serious thing. They were using AI and they were like saying that we use AI, but their privacy policy, it was just awful. I was really pissed to see that because the privacy policy was clearly written by LLMs, by ChatGPT. All this double dots, big letters, all that stuff. And inside, there were a lot of controversies, like saying that we will use your personal data for our AI training. And in several other passages, we won't use it for that. Very weird sharing clauses. And well, what was obvious, I insisted on a talk with their data protection officer. This is my trick when I'm kind of, not sure about the compliance in the company. I request not the emails, not the exchange of emails. I want to talk person to person and to see what's happening in real life. And it was even the more of the red flag because he wasn't able to answer any question. He was saying like, "Send me please the questionnaire in emails. I will answer." And I get really pissed because this is how I understand that, well, maybe somebody had passed some kind of certifications, but he clearly has no clue what to do. And obviously, I don't allow my company to engage with such vendors.
I mean, that's a great approach. You don't just get to dig deeper and talk more about some of the controls or privacy posture about the organization, but you may also get an opportunity to gauge, understand the understanding of privacy for someone in charge. It could be at
Or
a vendor end or client.
not present, or if it's absent, absent idea of privacy.
That is also inclusive. I mean, yeah, this is interesting. I'm also thinking, right? Like you again, as an active thought leader, how do you strike balance between maintaining this professional credibility and advocating industry change?
I never stop learning, as I told you. I never want to be, the smartest person in the room, because there is a saying I really love. If you are the smartest in the room, that you are in the wrong room, right? So to stay credible while pushing for change, I listen. I read every day. I read every day the laws, the guidances, the articles, theoretic ones from the colleagues. Again, sometimes I get really pissed when I see that these articles are crafted by ChatGPT. That's not what I want to read. I share the ideas with my colleagues. I surround myself with brilliant people from different industries and backgrounds. For example, Jamal Ahmed, the king of GDPR, the owner of Privacy Pros. He's amazing, and he's again very much pro change and pro ethical approach to everything, pro growth. So it's very, very interesting always in his surroundings. And so this is how I grow. And this is also how I make sure that my advocacy is not, something theoretical, that I'm not preaching, that my advocacy is grounded in real world challenges, not just for theory, because change requires humility and consistency. You can't lead if you stop evolving, and you can't lead in the modern times if you stop communicating, because I think that we are losing this very important skill to communicate. And to build compliance, you shouldn't be just knowledgeable, or or even if you want, to make a change, you should be able to talk the same language to people. You should be able to solve their problems. So this is how it works for me.
I would agree. Communication plays such an important role, not just to pass the message across effectively, but also influence. And speaking of influence, when and how did this thought come to your mind about making a personal brand about yourself?
um you never it happened naturally, because I was never ever interested in building personal brand, because, well, I'm not a blogger, I'm not an influencer, and I'm not a big fan of the fact that right now I have to, have extra time to do that. So I have to shoot this reels, short videos. It's not what I'm fond of. So it happened naturally. I started thinking that I want to help people around. I thought of the person who I want to help. So it wouldn't be, somebody only who is already cool in the industry. I want to help somebody who wants just to enter this industry. So I wrote good books for these people. I started teaching affordable courses, not only, VIP coachings. I created affordable courses, and I wanted to make them pretty deep, so the person would be able to learn and to reach out to me and to ask me. And then this year, I realized that the amount of new regulations in privacy and AI is huge. And as soon as I am reading every day, I would share notes on good documents. I would share with my colleagues, with my peers in LinkedIn. And people started coming to read my LinkedIn to see what I'm sharing today. So it's kind of, the something that came hand in hand with my work. It's not like I'm building my personal brand. I believe in discipline. I believe in learning. I believe in evolving.
Thanks for that. And this is actually community service in many ways, the way I look at it. In fact, even I do follow And there definitely so much to learn from your post on LinkedIn in particular, where I'm fairly passively active of sorts. But I had a tricky question for you, if I may. Like from data breaches to AI bias scandals, are privacy and AI leaders today empowered to push back when they see risk or wrongdoing? And what's still missing at the top, in your opinion?
Well, in theory, privacy and AI leaders should be empowered. In practice, it's still very much a battle because many of us are brought in as auditors, as advisors, but not as decision makers. So we usually can flag risks, we raise red flags about biases or data misuse, but without executive support, our voices doesn't do not have any weight, right? And what's missing on top is usually accountability, ownership. So very often leadership wants innovation, growth of business, and sometimes compliance is seen as all afterthought. I'm lucky enough that in company that I oversight global privacy and AI, my founder, the board of directors, they're very much pro ethical ideas. So if I say no for something, they say, like, unless she says that this is safe and we can do that, we wouldn't do that. And I don't care that you need that for business. I very much appreciate this approach, but I also do realize that it doesn't happen very often because as I consult a lot of businesses, I have seen the idea like, well, we will do that once we collect this and that amount of money. We will do that once we, and again, there goes some reasoning. And it's very hard to explain to people that it might be late. And yes, you might earn some money, but then you might lose this money because of financial and reputational losses.
Like, isn't it also ironic sometimes when there are certain statutes in place, companies still wait for the right time to adhere to some of the requirements? It could be for security or privacy as well, for that matter.
I think yes, it happens a lot. Everybody is waiting for the right time, and only the lucky ones work for companies who can afford themselves to build everything in a nice way from the scratch.
So, as a tangible takeaway for the listener, anybody who's starting out a career in security or privacy, or maybe someone wanting to pivot into privacy, what is the top career advice that you would give?
Mm, well, first of all, that this is not just a legal or technical, checkbox. It's human responsibility, and it doesn't matter what's your title. You're a CISO, data protection officer, whatever, policymaker. Your decisions shape future, shape trust, impact human lives, and influence how the technology serves today. It's huge responsibility. And my journey has taught me that you don't have to have all the answers on the day one. You just need to have courage to ask hard questions, to keep learning, and to act when something feels wrong. And finally, I do believe in discipline. So you build your work in discipline, not just in motivation. And that kind of sustains your field. And if you're just entering this field, the best thing you can do for yourself is read a lot. Don't rely on AI tools because you don't want to be just Google one. You want to be a critical thinker. You want to earn a lot because you are able to analyze and to criticize. So learn, read, and if it's possible, get yourself a good mentor on whom you can rely because, yes, mentors might cost a lot, but they kind of save you the most valuable resource, your time, because they have already had their mistakes. They're willing to share their path, they're willing to share the ideas. And this is the way how you can learn pretty quickly and, reach your dream position.
So, as we approach the end of this conversation, I think we will pivot to the signature rapid fire round. So, just a couple of questions coming your way for starters, in continuation to what you were just touching upon. In your
Mhm.
opinion, what's a must read for anyone serious about global privacy and AI governance?
I wouldn't share any specific books. I hope it wasn't a trick question to say, like, read my books. No, I recommend to be able to analyze and criticize yourself. So read the original texts. read the documents. For example, if you're working in Europe, dig into GDPR, analyze it, read European Data Protection Board guidelines to clarify how they understand that, and read the actual enforcement decisions and International Court of Justice decisions. So that would be the perfect idea, I think.
Thanks for that. And what's something surprising about you that doesn't show up on your LinkedIn?
Probably that I have a life behind my work. I'm a mom. My baby would be 3 years old this August, and she doesn't go to kindergarten. So I'm managing to do everything with her. I love to cook. I'm a dogs person. I love dogs, and I have one. I love to travel, and I'm a huge music fan.
Very interesting to know. So, on a closing note, is there any key message that you would like to give to the audience? It could be CISOs, compliance leaders, future DPOs, chief AI officers, policymakers, as a takeaway from your journey.
Believe in yourself. Work hard every day. The result would be there someday.
Thank you so much, Senia, for taking out time and for this candid conversation. And your inputs, I'm sure, bring a lot of value to the table for anyone interested, particularly in the privacy space. So, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ashish, for inviting me. It was my pleasure to meet with you and to discuss all that.